Almost everybody thinks retirement planning starts with one question: how much money do I need? And I used to think that too. But here's what I discovered. When people focus only on that number, they often end up more anxious, not less. And in this video, I want to show you the reason why. Because once you understand this one shift, retirement planning becomes a lot calmer. The actual amount of money you really need might surprise you. Most people assume there's a precise answer, a specific number, a finish line. But here's the thing about that. In my 40s, I chased the market. Not casually. I mean, late nights, staring at charts, Discord group chats pinging me during dinner time, option trades that I made money on, but I also lost money. Crypto positions I convinced myself were different. It affected my sleep. It affected my decisions. It set me back financially. And when the markets fell, I panicked and sold at the worst possible time. I realized I needed to change. I needed a system that allowed me to walk away from the anxiety I was feeling. Perhaps I'm not alone in that feeling. If that happened to you, leave a comment and let me know. That's why I started this channel. I'm Neil Richard. If you're someone who thinks about retirement and money, maybe a little too much, consider subscribing. This channel is for people who want a calmer, long-term view on retirement. In this video, we're going to cover 3 important things. First, why the retirement number most people are chasing may be the wrong target entirely. Second, what the math actually says about how much is enough. And third, why building the right system matters more than hitting any specific number. Because once you understand this, retirement planning starts to feel very different. Here's something interesting. Ask 10 different people what the retirement number is. You'll get 10 different answers. Some may say 1 million, some may say 2 million, 5 million. Some people say they need more than they could ever possibly save. Others have no idea at all. And here's why that happens. Because the retirement number question sounds simple. But underneath it all are dozens of assumptions nobody ever makes explicit. What age will you retire? How long will you live? What will inflation do? What will markets do? What will healthcare cost? Every retirement calculator you've ever used quietly answer those questions for you with assumptions you've probably never chose. And when those assumptions are wrong, the number is also wrong. So before you talk about how much you need to talk about why the question itself is harder than it looks. Here's something most retirement advice never acknowledges. Most people who take retirement seriously make real sacrifices. I remember moving into a 400 square foot apartment just so I could invest the extra $150 a month. Many people live below their means. They choose cheaper options. They delay gratification for years, sometimes decades. They skip the newest car. They chose a can of tuna rather than a sirloin steak. They say no to things their peers take for granted. And then life continues on anyway. A medical emergency, a pet that needs a blood transfusion, an unexpected job loss, a period of poor decisions driven by desperation to catch up faster. And suddenly, the careful plan looks totally different than it did. Here's the painful truth about that experience. It's far more common than anyone wants to say. Most retirement journeys are not straight lines. They're full of setbacks, restarts, periods of rebuilding, adjustments that can make a trip to a chiropractor feel like a walk in the park. And here's what matters most about that. The people who eventually build real financial security are rarely the ones who had a perfect plan, are rarely the ones that had a perfect run. They fail, they get up, they tell themselves never again, and then they bounce back. They're the ones who built a system that kept working even after the setbacks. Because of that system, they also built financial resilience. Because a system doesn't require a perfect history. It just requires a commitment to keep moving forward, especially in times when your back is against a wall. Now let's talk about the real numbers, because there's a reasonable framework here. It's called the 4% rule. Here's how it works. If you withdraw 4% of your portfolio in the first year of retirement and adjust that amount slightly for inflation every year after, historical data suggests your money should last approximately 30 years. So the math is simple. Take your expected annual retirement spending, multiply it by 25. That's your target portfolio. If you need $40,000 a year, you need $1 million. If you need $60,000, you need $1.5 million. Clean and simple, right? Now, here's the thing. That framework is a starting point, not a guarantee, because it assumes average market returns. It assumes a 30-year retirement, and it assumes you won't adjust your spending at all. None of those assumptions are guaranteed. That reminds me of Benjamin Franklin, who once wrote, "In this world, nothing is certain except death and taxes." The 4% rule was designed under conservative assumptions, which means for most people it actually works better than expected, not worse. And here's the real insight most people never reach. The retirement number isn't one number. It's a range defined by two things: how much you plan to spend and how resilient your system is to bad timing. And here's what most people never calculate: their actual spending number. Not what they wish they spent, but what they actually need every month to live a life they're genuinely okay with. Because that number is always lower than people fear, especially for people who spend years living intentionally. No mortgage, no debt payments, no commuting costs, no work wardrobe. The monthly income you actually need in retirement is often dramatically lower than the income you needed while working. And a lower spending number changes everything. It means your existing savings goes further than you think. It means your target portfolio is smaller than you assumed. It means you may be closer to retirement readiness than any calculator suggested. Now, here's the shift I want you to make. Stop asking, how much do I need? Start asking, do I have a system that moves me forward every single month? Because here's what a good system does that a number can never do. A number is static. Markets move, life changes, expenses shift. A number you calculated 3 years ago may be completely irrelevant today. But a system adapts. A system that keeps you constantly invested in global equities, that holds cash equivalents for stability, that buys into market weaknesses rather than panicking out of it. That system compounds quietly in the background, whether markets are rising or falling, whether the news is calm or chaotic. And over time, that consistency does something no single number could ever do. It builds resilience. Because the goal of retirement planning was never to hit a number. The goal was always to build enough security to stop worrying about the numbers. And paradoxically, the fastest way to get there is to stop obsessing over the destination and focus entirely on the quality of the journey. So, if you're in your 40s or 50s and the retirement number question is keeping you up at night, here's a more useful set of questions. First, is my money consistently invested in global diversified portfolio? Second, do I have a cash buffer that protects me from being forced to sell at the wrong time? Third, am I buying into market weakness systematically rather than reacting emotionally? Fourth, is my plan built around conservative return assumptions so that the average markets feel like a bonus rather than a requirement? And fifth, am I reducing my spending footprint so that the income I need in retirement is as low as possible? If the answer to most of those is yes, then you are building something far more powerful than a number. You are building a retirement system that works across different market conditions, different life circumstances, and different timelines. And that system is worth far more than any specific balance in any specific account. Here's what I want you to take away from this. It's not really a math problem. It's a confidence problem. Most people ask how much they need because they want to feel safe. But the number itself never delivers that feeling, because no matter what number you reach, markets can move, life can change, and the number can feel insufficient all over again. The thing that actually delivers calm is a system you trust. A clear allocation, a cash buffer for stability, conservative assumptions that make good markets feel like a gift. Because when your system is working, you stop watching the number. You start trusting the process. And that shift from number obsession to system confidence is one of the most important financial transitions you can make. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, not because the future doesn't matter, but because the future is built entirely from what you do right now." The retirement number you're chasing lives in the future, but the system that gets you there lives in the present. Every consistent contribution, every single calm decision during a volatile market, every month you don't interrupt a good plan, those are the things that build retirement security, not a number on a calculator. So if you don't know your exact retirement number today, that's okay. Focus on the system. Trust the process. Stay consistent. Because the investors who retire with confidence are rarely the ones who calculated the perfect number. They're the ones who built the right habits and refused to stop. That's the long view. If this gave you something useful to think about, consider subscribing. And remember, optimistic planning requires luck. Conservative planning succeeds without it. See you in the next video.